Joining us now is Colonial Metals Group CEO and founder Paul Stone. Sir, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's so great to be back, as always. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. Can you talk to us about any current economic signs in the domestic and global markets that are causing concern for you?
Well, we're in the solution business, if you will. Great crafted question. In the way that, gold and silver is a solution to a problem, I would never consider it or suggest that it's an investment that runs alongside other things. You certainly want to consider what the threats would be and why gold and silver is thriving the way that it has recently and certainly since COVID and certainly since the year 2000 when the real money printing began, when the retirees the baby boomers started retiring, and debt was just 4 trillion back then, and today it's 36, 37 trillion. So you look at gold and silver as a hedge or a location for money. You don't want to have at risk anymore. And unique risks like the ones that face us today from treachery all over, de-dollarization, what the BRICS nations could do, World War III could start, the reaction of other countries from tariffs. Trump's doing a great job, but what will those reactions be by other countries? Will they just lay down? Some will, some won't.
And let's talk about some of those countries. Let's talk about BRICS nations and how they're using their local currency and not using the US dollar. Also, the Fed interest rates between BRICS and the Fed. Obviously, that makes for some turbulent times, doesn't it?
Yeah, one, you want to make the dollar easy to work with, as Biden certainly sent shockwaves throughout the world when he weaponized the dollar, just like they weaponized lawfare against Donald Trump, trying to keep him from regaining his throne, if you will, since he's playing the joke as king of New York recently. Call it him regaining his throne, his seat of power. Actions the Biden administration took by seizing $600 billion worth of Russian wealth in the dollar showed the rest of the world, if you don't play the ball with us, we might take you out. And Saudi Arabia moves right after that to no longer require payment for oil in the US dollar. So the petrodollar died. BRICS nations are forming because of actions by governments that preceded Trump. When they print to solve our bills, to pay our bills here in America, they cause inflation around the world. And inflation in the United States alone since 2000, measured the old-fashioned way, has been 8% a year. So as the utilization of our dollar becomes more and more difficult, or harder to stomach by other countries that also want to be number one, they can't be using our dollar and end up in the pole position, economically speaking, at the top of the heap as far as countries' dominance go here on the earth. So threats against the dollar, raising rates, if inflation comes back, raising rates will make it harder for other countries and other investors to consider doing business in the dollar. So there's a lot of catch-22s everywhere you look. Donald Trump has one hell of a fight and a quagmire in front of him because once he touches on one thing, it affects many other things.
So when we're looking at inflation and we're looking at China, I believe they're doing something with gold as well. I mean, right now we're just trying to monitor a lot of movement when it comes to the dollar and gold and silver right now. And I'm sure that's what you're doing as well.
Of course. Thanks for mentioning that. When people say, what do they know that we don't? Why has Warren Buffett recently liquidated $170 billion from the market to a cash position? What does he know that we don't? We don't necessarily have to know exactly what's causing them to do what they're doing. Why would other countries' central banks be stockpiling gold since the turn of the century? Because they know what we all know, that gold and silver is a bulkhead against financial difficulty. It's a seawall. Build it as high as you can against a financial tsunami that eventually comes. What would that tsunami be? Do you really think, sober up a little, do you really think it's okay that we've paid $36 trillion worth of bills with money printed out of thin air? Is that viable? No, everyone knows that it's not. Take that down to the bones in your body. That means the financial system has been bankrupt for so long, it's hard to imagine how we haven't failed yet. But we definitely fail when the dollar resource is exhausted. If the dollar's only worth 3 cents and they're burning through 2 cents of buying power a year to pay these bills they don't have the money to pay, then it's not too long down the road where that dollar, and it might catch everyone off guard, but that dollar doesn't have the power anymore to pay its bills, to be printed, and everything you're used to enjoying in life, all your creature comforts, your portfolio values, your real estate values, is in ashes because it was valued in the dollar that is dead.
And that makes sense. And before we get to the 1, 2, 3s of Colonial Metals Group and what people can do to get the ball rolling there, I wanted to get your take on a couple 24/7 news cycle items, specifically Doge, and outside of that and almost indirectly connected to that, Fort Knox. Just your thoughts basically on how Doge has been doing and the fact that the president and Elon saying, hey, we want to go check out the gold to see if it's there.
Yeah. So when someone fights to take something unjustly, there's a unique fight in a unique language that exists. Like if the government came to take someone's farm, there would be a unique set of words that we would get to hear as that farmer protested having his or her farm taken. When the Democrats are protesting these cuts and ending these financial rivers that they've dug out from our dollar for money to flow to programs they're interested in, their fight doesn't have those words in it. Their fight has entitlement to it, arrogance to it, how dare you to it. And that's meaning that the Doge is highlighting things that shouldn't be funded anymore. They're finding programs that should have never had money flowing toward them or ever been created in the first place. What Trump wasn't able to do in his fight to drain the swamp during his first term, maybe just an analogy, he was looking for the drain plug. Where the hell is that drain plug? Feeling around down at the bottom of that icky swamp, trying to find where do I pull that plug so this thing drains out? The way to seem to drain the swamp is throw a spotlight on it. And then all the creepy crawlies go running and all of the falsehoods and the lies and the secrets are exposed. And people can't run supporting those programs in the future because they've been exposed. And so Doge is doing incredible work. And the main thing I hope it certainly achieves is changing the mindset by breaking arms at the elbow and showing that this is not what the American people ever asked for. And you guys figured a long time ago, you forgot who you actually work for. You don't work for foreign countries. You don't work for foreign governments. You work for the American people who are toiling away at their jobs, hoping you're doing an honest effort at yours. And so that's what Doge can really expose, is that we need as citizens to stop looking at the government to provide solutions to us, that the government is the arbiter of success and they unleash the flows that causes greatness and the pursuit of happiness to occur in this country. They're the ones that break down those chances and opportunities. They're the ones who restrict access to greatness and the pursuit of happiness here in the American, for the American family and the American individuals, regardless of what color, race, or creed you are. And the next thing, when we look at Fort Knox, there's also 6,300 tons of gold in New York City. This, I believe, are the remnants of countries who delivered their gold inside of America, forming a Bretton Woods agreement post-World War II, where the dollar had more gold to back itself with, therefore they could create more dollars to help rebuild the world after what Hitler did to it. At one point, there were 12,000 tons sitting 80 feet below street level in this beautiful building in Manhattan in the financial district. And today there's 6,300 tons that remain there. But gold is irrelevant when it comes to your government's finances. They do not want to. Trump has talked about the proponents of going back to a gold standard. But the government at large certainly does not want to relinquish the control, dominance, and oppressive capabilities over you, lording over you, by going back to the gold standard, because that would take away their power and empower us. If there's still 8,500 metric tons in Fort Knox, great. If there aren't, that's a sad travesty and is one more giant example of how government officials have made choices without your interests involved, without ever considering what's best for you, the people who sent them there to Washington.
And then when we shift gears for people that are saying, I do have some money in the bank account, a savings, a retirement, and they're looking at gold and silver, talk to us about Colonial Metals Group. What is the first step they should take?
Bring us your questions. Bring us your uncertainties. Bring us the things you're nervous about, wondering about. You might think you're the only one who thinks about the things you're thinking about and are concerned about your things you're concerned about. You might be the only one in your neighborhood and your family that's thinking that severely, that critically about things. Bring us those things. The biggest thing we could ever be is your ally. We certainly get the confusion and especially if you're 60, 70, 80, 90 years old, the confusion swirling around in your head, like how the hell did America end up like this? Like it literally takes an executive order to prescribe that men, regardless of whatever they've done to their bodies, can't compete in women's sports. It takes an executive order for that. So it takes, sanctuary cities, deporting illegal criminals. They're confused. We want to become your ally. Clarity is the number one ingredient to confidence. It's hard to be confident about a damn thing if you're uncertain about it and if you're confused about what to focus on and what to look for. Just like autonomy is one of the absolute pillars to democracy. And financial autonomy is how you get to say and do what you want with your time. If you run out, if your money runs out, if your finances are wrecked, if the value of your savings is destroyed, then you don't have financial autonomy anymore. Relocating dollars away from dollars and into ounces preserves that financial autonomy for you until the day you wake up in the morning super excited to go racing back to other things. Then out of gold and silver you come. So we're here to help empathize and provide clarity and confidence to the concerns you have because they're legitimate. You can't pay bills, your country can't operate, your stocks can't go higher, your real estate can't go higher because of printed money, and you count on that lasting forever. That's ridiculous.
If you're just joining us now, this is Paul Stone, the CEO and founder of Colonial Metals Group. All you have to do is go to freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Get that info kit on gold and silver, tax-sheltered IRA, 401k, all tax-free. freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Sir Paul, anything else you'd like to share with us before we go?
We only deal in physical gold and silver. It's a very simple process to go through, although we get and understand it might be and probably is the first time you've ever done it. There are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people that have already made this move. They did it during the first Trump administration. They did it during Obama. They've done it during Biden. You're joining a club of people who think like you do. And it might feel like you're the only one, but I assure you, you're not. So you're going to find an ally with us, and we only deal in physical gold and silver, titled in your name, in a safe in your home, or in a depository in a red state.
There you go. Paul Stone, the CEO of Colonial Metals Group. Sir, thank you again for joining us on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Thank you for having me.